Good evening, everyone. It's November 19th. We're here for a regular meeting of the Laramie City Council. I'm going to call that meeting to order and invite you all to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Gabriel.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Richardson.
Here.
Shumway, absent. Somerville, absent. Cumby.
Here.
Harrington.
Here.
That's 7 present and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. We're on to public comment on non-agenda items. If there's a member of the public wishing to speak to the council on an item that's not on our agenda, go ahead and come forward in the room. Seeing none, I will close public comment, and we're going to move to Councilor Pierce to set the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the agenda be set as submitted.
Second.
All right, motion by Pierce, seconded by Newman. All of those in favor of setting the agenda say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. All right. The agenda has been set. We're on to proclamations, public hearings, and notifications. And first things first, we have a proclamation. Whereas the City of Laramie, Wyoming celebrates our local small businesses and their contributions and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 34.7 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 61.1% of net new jobs created since 1995, and small businesses employ 45.9% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 68 cents of every dollar spent at a small business in the United States stays in the local community, and every dollar spent at a small business creates an additional 48 cents in local business activity as a result of employees and local businesses purchasing local goods and services. And whereas 59% of U.S. consumers aware of Small Business Saturday shopped or ate at small, independently owned retailer or restaurants on Small Business Saturday 2023. And whereas Laramie, Wyoming supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our community. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Brian Harrington, Mayor and President of the Laramie City Council, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2024 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Small Business Saturday, celebrating its 15th year, and shop small throughout the year. And we have some Main Street folks here. Come on up. It's good to see so many of you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I just want to say that I've always believed it was important to support your small businesses in your local community, and that's one reason that drew me to being part of Laramie Main Street. And I've been there for 5 years now, and I really think it's an important thing to give back to your community in that way and not always jump on Amazon.
Hear, hear.
So, Mayor and members of City Council, as a thank you for your support, we do have support local stickers that have been designed by the Wyoming Main Street program under the auspices of the Wyoming Business Council. So I'd love to share these with you.
Thank you. Mr. Enzi, Mr. Durrell, anything you guys would like to add? Put you both on the spot. Thank you both for being here, too.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, LCBA is just really the backup dancers to Main Street on this one. Every year when they organize and orchestrate and come up with a bunch of innovative ideas for our small businesses to do, we just help get the word out and spread it beyond. So we're just really the backup dancers to the good work being done downtown.
As they say, it takes a village.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, thanks for having us, and I will not be doing any backup dancing. I'm much more of a front man. No, thank you. And the real work does obviously go to the Main Street programs around the state and of course in Laramie, and it's so exciting. And our Main Street manager, Kayla Clare, does an awful lot of work to do this, and I think there was a state proclamation this last week as well. So thank you for the proclamation, and thank you for your support. And more than anything, shopping local is not just on one day, it's as much as you can. And I like what you said about trying your best to do that every day. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would you all like to come up for a picture? Any and all of you? All right. City Clerk, when you feel settled, you can go ahead and get started on public hearings. And I think for members of the public, we're going to take all three of these public hearings at once, but I will open up public comment on these three separate occasions. Go ahead, City Clerk.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held Tuesday, November 19th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Council Chambers, and via Zoom meeting for the following purpose. Original Ordinance Number 2093, amending Laramie Municipal Code Title 5.82.050 to modify the body that considers revocation of mobile vending license, changing it from the City Council to Board of Appeals. Number 2, Original Ordinance Number 2094, amending Title 13.04.360 in Laramie Municipal Code, non-municipal water franchise or permit required. And number 3, Original Ordinance Number 2095, adding Laramie Municipal Code Division 7, Section 13.80, creating a surface water drainage utility fund. All information relative to this matter is available for review at the City of Laramie City Clerk's Office at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting or via Zoom. Written comments may be mailed to City Council, care of City of Laramie City Clerk, P.O. Box C, Laramie, Wyoming, 82073. For questions or information, contact the City Clerk's office at the address above or via telephone 307-721-5220 or by email at clerk@cityoflaramie.org.
Thank you, City Clerk. We'll open up the first public hearing, which is Original Ordinance 2093. Any members of the public wishing to speak to that public hearing, raise your hand on Zoom or come forward in the room. All right, seeing none, we'll close that public hearing. Move on to Original Ordinance 2094. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this public hearing can come forward in the room or raise their hand on the Zoom call. Seeing none, I will close that public hearing as well. And our final public hearing, Original Ordinance 2095. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this ordinance? Go ahead and come forward in the room, raise your hand on Zoom. City Clerk, we have Mr. Glass on Zoom. And Mr. Glass, when you're ready, we'll just need your camera on, and you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Harrington, members of council. I'm about to jump on and produce another webcast, which is the reason for my background here. It's a technical webcast. But I'm here to speak to you tonight because I won't be able to speak to you when the item actually comes up on your main agenda. I'm very concerned about this item for two reasons. First of all, I'm concerned that the public is going to be blindsided about it. There's been no real coverage of it in the press. We don't really have an active press, and I think the word really needs to get out. I would recommend that, if possible, the public be notified, maybe through notices and utility bills, so they know that this is coming. Second of all, since one of council's priorities is affordable housing, I think it's very important that we make sure we impose this stormwater tax on residents, that we not burden the people in our community who are least able to afford it. Therefore, I would like to propose, I don't know if it's possible to call for this amendment during the meeting tonight, that there be an exemption for the first 2,000 square feet of non-permeable area in any property. And the reason for that is that about covers a double wide. And so if you were in one of the smallest housing units in town, and maybe that's all you can afford, you won't be penalized by this tax. I think that there will be enough other properties held by people who are better able to afford it that they'll be able to cover the cost of stormwater abatement. Well, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for taking time to be here, Mr. Glass. Anyone else wishing to comment during this public hearing? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing and figure out where I'm at on my list here. We'll move on then to announcements. City Manager.
Mayor, thank you. The first announcement from Assistant City Manager's office, and then followed by an announcement and staff recognition with Director Wade.
Great. Welcome, Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Tonight's announcements related to an area just outside the City Hall building. We just got news today that the Laramie Public Art Coalition received word that the moose that had been commissioned to land out front here is going to be delivered on Monday between 10 and noon. We anticipate a pretty quick installation. It's going to be headed up by Hunter Dearman Mosquito Control and his staff, and we're excited to see it get here. The particular artist has had several health issues over the time, which has delayed the construction of the artwork, but we're excited to get it here, excited to see it. Great appreciation to the Laramie Public Art Coalition, the selection committee, staff, park staff worked to remove irrigation, cemetery staff pulled the boulders, and Hunter staff installed the rocks that are there now. So we're excited for it to land and look forward to some changes to our front space there. And then as another side note, another thing with Hunter Dearman and his staff, the beautiful lights around the city building are attributed to his work and his past professional work in lighting, so we're super excited about what they've done here.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. And Assistant City Manager, who do we have for the staff recognition?
Jen Wade is going to go first, and then I'll do rock stars.
Thank you. Director Wade, welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. Tonight, I have the pleasure of joining you to just recognize the work on our ERP project. We did get the final report from the finance phase just a couple of months ago, and I would be remiss if I did not publish it for the public, not only as a matter of transparency, this is a $2.4 million project, but also just to let the community know how the project is going. I also want to recognize our departmental trainers this evening, just so you hear their names and know that they were absolutely part of what made this project a success. Starting off the finance phase, we knew it was going to be big. We were going to implement things like purchasing that we hadn't really done before in the software, and we knew that we would need not only the project team, but a team across the city of committed individuals, and that's where we came up with the departmental trainer model. So I'll read you these names tonight, and then I'll briefly go over some sections of the project report. My updates will not take very long. But I want you to know, in addition to the department trainers, that I would say I felt that really everyone got on board, which was astonishing to me. Normally with a project of this scope, you expect a lot of grumbling, and honestly, the grumbling was pretty small. It was there because we're human, but given what we were changing, I am really impressed with how everyone came together and supported this project and how we continue to do so for these subsequent phases. So So your trainers include Corey Applehans, she is at Fire, Kevin Lamb, also Fire, Gus Stoneham, Fire, Chase Bridgman, Fire, Monica Lopez, Police, Miles Cushman, Police, Ton Smith, also Police, Danielle Brewer was Police, no longer here, Scott Palm, Utilities, Shane Johnson, Streets, Mark Hazlett, Engineering, William Winkler, Engineering, Cindy Williams, Public Works, Nancy Oakland Potter, City Manager's Office, Nancy Bartholomew, City Clerk, Danny Shepard, HR, Lonnie Wilson, Cemetery, Tanner Young, Parks, Rochelle Kyneth, Recreation Center, and Jody Guerin, Recreation Center. And so these folks really helped us lead the rollout. They came to additional training, they trained other people, and they helped us adjust our very old business systems. The last thing I want to highlight for you tonight are the final thoughts in the report that is published for your review from our project manager. And I'm going to just log in. I may have to read it online because I may have to, oh, good. I'll just highlight a few of these bold words for you. The project manager highlights that our implementation stands out as one of the most seamless and stress-free she's been part of in a long time. Clearly, she was not in our shoes because I will tell you we experienced stress, but I think in terms of the go live, in terms of how smooth everything was, our stress happened before it, so that when it was time to go live, we were really ready, and that is a tremendous accomplishment. She also highlighted the collaboration she saw on the project team and the collaborative spirit that she noticed in the city. So I'm not alone in saying there wasn't a whole lot of grumbling. It really was fantastic. She also noticed it. She also complimented our thoughtful timeline and our use of change champions. Our timeline is very important. You know we have small staff numbers, and so getting that timeline right allows us to make sure that we implement a high quality product and we really get the most on our investment. That wraps up my announcement, my presentation to you. And I think that's it. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Wade.
Yeah.
Councilors, any questions? I appreciate the opportunity to thank you again and to thank all the staff that participated in this. The council's well aware of the lift that has been happening for what feels like forever, but I'm sure you're feeling it more than we are. So, so thank you. Please pass that around. City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So typically we recognize our monthly employee, and this month we get to recognize 2 employees in 1 month because we did not have our September employee rock star with us. So I'm going to start with a belated recognition of Taylor Albright, who was the employee of the month in September. Taylor is our Parks Maintenance Worker 2, I wanted to clarify. He was nominated by his supervisor, Hunter Dearman, in Mosquito IPM. And a little bit about Taylor. He worked with us beginning in 2012 as a provisional or seasonal employee, and then 3 years ago was able to become a full-time employee. He is from Wheatland, a Wyoming native, attended Eastern Wyoming College and the University of Wyoming, and holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So how does one go from a criminal justice degree to being in mosquito control and IPM? Well, he appreciates diversity and learning new things, and I love that when we see folks finding a career path here that they may not have otherwise contemplated. Taylor's duties include applying larvicide, checking mosquito traps, identifying and speciating mosquitoes, and also identifying the sex of ticks, which he said he didn't even know was something you could do until he learned that curious trait here at the city of Laramie. Taylor also in the winter months, as do the crews on mosquito control, helps with snow removal, plowing, chipping of tree debris, and other activities. And as mentioned by Assistant City Manager, putting up some Christmas lights too, depending on the time of year. Taylor said he's found it really interesting to learn how to do this work, to learn about all the variety of mosquitoes that live in Laramie. For us lay people, there's one kind, and they're all bad, but there are many varieties and species, and only one of them carries the dreaded West Nile virus. So with that, I just want to invite Taylor to come up and recognize you, and as he moves up here, share his sort of description of how he likes to approach his work, and that is to say, he says his motto, so to speak, is be your mythical best. And I loved that, and that was such a great encouragement, I guess I would say, from Taylor. So welcome, Taylor. Come say hi.
Thank you. Taylor, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for being here, and congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, just city's been a great opportunity. I've learned a lot between all the different positions I've done between parks and mosquito. Just got to take day by day, just start learning whatever I can. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Plenty of questions about this tick conversation, but that's for a different time.
There is never a dull moment at the City of Laramie. Mayor, now moving into October, our Employee of the Month was Bryce Lopez, and Bryce is a building and electrical inspector. He was nominated by a coworker, another building inspector, who appreciated how helpful Bryce had been to him when he started newly at the city. A little bit about Bryce. He is and was a construction electrician through 2021, came to us from the private sector after working for a number of years on contract projects. He started with the city in June of 2021, so 3+ years in our building and code administration division. Work that he performs, he reviews plans and researches the code. He does a lot of field inspections, and particularly as the city has been working with the university on the ginormous projects that they have been completing up on the campus. Bryce talks a little bit about the time pressures of getting all of those field inspections accomplished in Laramie's short building season. And that staff over there, they really do spend a tremendous amount of time in the field, which of course forces them to balance the time that they have in the office to complete plan review and issue building permits. Bryce is also a native of Wyoming from Lander. He attended Central Wyoming College in Riverton, where he got his electrical cred established. And I would just want to close by sharing what his coworker said when he nominated Bryce for Employee of the Month. He said that he has always been there to support his coworker when he needed help or needed to learn a new thing, and that is a really important skill, I think, for City of Laramie employees, particularly in divisions where there may only be 4 or 5 people. So teamwork is the only way to make the dream work. So with that, I'd invite Bryce up, and we appreciate your chance to recognize him tonight.
Thank you, City Manager. Mr. Lopez, welcome. Congratulations, and thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to appreciate I've appreciated and enjoyed the opportunity to help educate the citizens of Laramie and the contractors that work here in the minimum building standards that we do. We are a small community and we stay pretty busy, but I'd like to thank everyone for that opportunity.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the work you do for the city. Thank you. Yeah, I'd love it. You guys both join us? Is at the end of announcements, City Manager.
That is the end. Thank you.
Great. All right, we're going to go to Councilor Pierce. Oh, forgive me. Any disclosures, council members, before we get to voting? Okay. We'll move to Councilor Pierce for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Okay, motion by Pierce, seconded by Gabriel. City Clerk, go ahead and call the roll, please.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway, absent. Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. The consent agenda has been approved. We'll move on then to item 11 on the regular agenda. Councilmember Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Laramie City Council approve AIA Document 133 Standard Form Agreement between owner and construction manager at risk AIA Document 133, Exhibit B, Insurance and Bonds, and AIA Document A201, General Conditions of the Contract for Construction for the Wyoming Center of Excellence, formerly Project Jupiter, under a future guaranteed maximum price, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Gabriel, seconded by Pierce. Assistant City Manager, please.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, this is an exciting time to be in front of you as we've been able to move this project to this point and are looking forward to moving forward to a groundbreaking in spring of 2025. But to give you a little recap, if you remember back in 2023, we were awarded a $20 million grant along with $500,000 from the Laramie Chamber Business Alliance to provide a building, to provide growth building space for Plenty Unlimited, Inc. We're super excited to have that going. In 2023, we hired the design firm of MOA and worked through a rather impressive schematic design phase to provide a building amongst wildly varying construction costs at that time to get to a point where we finally reached the schematic design phase, which is the final design phase before you get to construction documents. If I was to describe it, the process that we've moved through is we've gone through the dreamer phase, gotten more to the reality phase and trying to ID how things work together. Now we're going to be ready to move into the final phase of how everything works together, creating that body that creates this building for Plenty Unlimited, Inc. We went through the process last January to select a construction manager at risk, and we just were kind of on hold with the project due to scoping and various things, construction prices, and we finally got to the point where we've got the schematic design, which is the exact right point to bring our construction manager at risk on. We went through a process. We had 6 construction manager at risk company firms submit. We interviewed 3, selected Sampson Construction Inc. here, and they're out of Casper, but they also have offices here in Laramie and have done a lot of work. With what you've got before you are 3 agreements. The A133, which is the construction manager at risk with a cost of work plus fee for a guaranteed maximum price. The way that works is they have a cost of work that is all pre-construction services, cost estimating, pre-bidding, making sure value engineering, making sure that we've designed a building that they can actually build. Then the construction manager risk process comes in and they will bid out all the subs, all the miners, everybody that's going to do the construction, develop a guaranteed maximum price, which is within our limited resources of $20,500,000, and then they'll provide a guaranteed maximum price, which will come back before council for approval as we move forward. The other part of the agreement, the A133B, is the insurance and bonds section, an attachment, and then the A2107 is the general conditions, which establishes the outlines, the way the contract's going to be paid and work throughout the process. With that being said, I actually have representation from Sampson online. I also have Josh Durrell, the director of the Wyoming Business Council here, and Brad Enzi, Laramie Chamber Business Alliance. If you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. And I would invite any of those folks, if they have anything to add, they're more than welcome before we hop into questions. Okay. Council members, any questions? Please, Councilor Gabriel.
Todd, I was noticing in the document that the planning phase is spent, what, $775,000, something like that?
Correct. The actual full side of the planning phase is estimated to be right around $2 million.
Okay,
so
just a portion, more to come.
Correct.
That's all I need. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Other questions? You had Assistant City Manager mention spring for a groundbreaking. What does that, how long is the construction of the building?
Honorable Mayor, our grant agreement is through June 30, 2026 right now. I believe that they can get the construction done in 14 to 16 months, so it'll be real tight on that process.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions?
I sure like to, Honorable Mayor, I sure like to commit the construction company to a certain amount of months.
Me too. Great.
We're committed.
You heard it here, folks.
That's right.
Any other questions, councilors? Okay, we'll turn this over to the public. If there's any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward in the room or raise your hand on the Zoom call. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Councilors, anything before the vote? City Clerk, please call the roll.
Gabriel.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Shumway, absent. Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We'll move on to item 12. Councilmember Newman.
I move to award the bid for replacement of Unit 675 automated collection truck with trade-in to CMI Tico, Casper, Wyoming, in the amount not to exceed $418,705, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Newman, second by Pierce. Director Webb, welcome.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Unit 675 is an automated collection truck in the Solid Waste Division. This is one of the trucks with the dual arms, collecting trash or recycling, whatever route it's on that day. We went out to bid, and we received one bid from CMI Tico. They're the Mack dealer out of Casper. We've worked with them many, many times. And staff is recommending award to CMI Tico. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Director Webb. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Newman, please.
The trade-in value is $70K. Are these not worth it to keep around for a spare, or as we get bigger, or is it just at its life and we need to get rid of it?
Sure. Yeah, Mayor, through you, we actually have, I think, 2 spares in the fleet. We kind of rotate their use to make sure they're getting use, not just sitting. And then this equipment, this one in particular right now is 500 days out for delivery. So estimated on its hour usage, it's going to be about 8,700 hours by the time it gets here. These trucks take a lot of wear and tear just because of all the moving parts on them. And 8,700 hours is pushing it to when it starts to get real expensive to do repairs on the equipment.
Thank you, Councilor. Good question. Councilor Richardson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Webb, I know that we have moved some of the alley pickups to in front of houses due to damage being done as those trucks are coming by. Is this truck any larger than what we have already? Are they getting bigger, or so the question really is, if it is larger, should we anticipate having to adapt how we're picking up any further?
Yeah, Councilor Richardson, through you, Mayor, this is pretty much an identical swap or identical replacement of vehicles, same size as all the previous trucks.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Pierce, please.
I'm wondering, Director Brooks, do you have a comment regarding the 500 days out? I know into the pandemic or during the pandemic, things were like crazy, and I know sometimes fire trucks or ambulance or whatever it happens to be, take a while. But are we still seeing this long of time, or just?
Councilor Pierce, through you, Mayor, anytime you get kind of a specialty body, we're seeing that time lag. So we're buying the whole unit, but CMI Tico then contracts out the body build, and that body is built for that cabin chassis. So they don't have one sitting on the lot somewhere when they get the order. They're going to start building it, and so that's why it takes a time. In the past, before the pandemic, a lot of times those cabin chassis, they had extras of sitting around, but they're now building to order.
Interesting. Thank you.
Councilor Richardson, do you have another question? Okay. Anyone else? All right, we'll turn this over to the public. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this item can come forward in the room or raise their hand on the Zoom call. Seeing none, councilors, anything before the vote? Okay, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Newman.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Shumway, absent. Somerville.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Cumby,
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We'll move on to item 13. Councilor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve original ordinance number 2093, amending Laramie Municipal Code 5.82.050 of the City of Laramie to modify the body that considers revocation of a mobile vending license, changing it from City Council to the Board of Appeals on second reading in accordance with findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, seconded by Newman. Director Taney, welcome.
Mayor, Council, this is a second reading of an item that would change the appeals process from City Council to the Board of Appeals, which is essentially the Planning Commission. This was kind of a result of a work session we had months ago, and it's a fairly straightforward change, just a couple items changed within this section of the ordinance. And so last meeting, there were no questions, and I'd be happy to take any questions today if you have them. Otherwise, that's all I really have for this.
Councilors, any questions? Director Taney, I have one, and that is just the board requires some sort of expertise, correct? Are the positions, I know we have a vacancy now on this board. Is it something that, is it typically a board that is, okay, wait, sorry, my question might be better phrased as, is it a board that you anticipate maybe a quorum being an issue for getting something heard?
Excuse me. Mayor, Council, no. I mean, the Board of Appeals and Planning Commission, it's been a long time since we've actually not had a meeting because we didn't have a quorum, so I don't see that as an issue.
Okay, thank you. And this is going to, just so I'm clear on it, I had this in my mind as the Building Code Board of Appeals. This is going to the Planning Commission Board of Appeals.
Correct, yes.
I just
You do
don't
not
have that
want to be
question
confused. They are two different boards. This would be the Board of Appeals, which is it sits as the Planning Commission, so, yeah.
Well, I'm glad I asked that question. It doesn't make me look smart, but hopefully that helps somebody else that may have that same question.
I get confused as well. So.
Sure enough. All right. Any other questions, council members? Great. All right, we'll turn this over to the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward in the room or raise your hand on Zoom. Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. Councilors, anything before the vote? All right, City Clerk, go ahead and call the roll on second reading.
Pierce.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway, absent. Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved on second reading. We'll move on to item 14. Councilmember Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve original ordinance number 2094, amending Title 13.04.360 of the Laramie Municipal Code as recommended by city staff on second reading in accordance with findings of fact and conclusions of law, and correct a Scrivener's error.
Motion by Pierce, seconded by Gabriel. Who do we have on this item? Jay. Mr. Smith, welcome.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, just a quick overview of what this amendment does. It provides for the registering of existing wells, and then it brings the permitting requirements into the typical city processes. It also provides some staff discretion when it comes to reporting and meter requirements. And it also, this one, the city manager caught a error where I got a little aggressive with a strike through, and I got one more word than what I intended on your first draft there. So I would stand for any questions you have.
Thank you. Council members, any questions? All right. We'll turn this over to the public. If there's any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward in the room or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Councilors, anything before the vote? Good catch, City Manager. All right, City Clerk, you can call the roll.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway. Absent. Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved on second reading. Move on to item 15, Vice Mayor Cumby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve second reading of original ordinance number 2095, adding Laramie Municipal Code Division Roman numeral 7, section 13.80, creating a surface water drainage utility fund, and correct the Scrivener's error in section 13.80.070.A.2 from 13.80.020.C to 13.80.020.B.
Second.
Thank you,
she's
Vice
ready.
Mayor. Yeah.
If
Motion
she's
by
ready.
Cumby, seconded by Pierce. Director Webb.
Yeah, Mayor, I'm sorry I made that so difficult.
That's okay. We
I
got
am the Scrivener that made the error. So I just wanted to take you back real quick, why we're here and how we got here. City Council set goals starting back in 2021 to get us here. You can see on your summary sheet, I've listed out the goals from 21 through 24, and that's what's driven us to get us here. Through the process, we ended up hiring WSP consultants. It was Wood Consultants at the time. It's now WSP Consultants. Aaron Murray's in the audience tonight. I think Elizabeth is on Zoom. Through the process, part of the scope of work with WSP was public outreach, public information. And as you know, over the last 12, 14 months, we had 4 different work sessions on the subject. And we also held 4 different stormwater focus group meetings. The stormwater focus group meetings were very well attended, were open to the public. I think last week I had attached to your agenda packet the attendee list. It's not on there this time, but I can definitely share that out. Those meetings with the stormwater focus group were great. They really let us know what they thought the community wanted. And those meetings were hours long. It wasn't a 15, 20-minute meeting. We were in there with them sometimes for 3-4 hours, and they were very well engaged. So that's how we got here. That's the public outreach we had. I wanted to touch on that. As far as the ordinance goes, I stepped through it kind of with you last meeting, so I didn't want to get too in-depth with that. I did just want to give you some quick numbers as far as what this looks like for residential customers. So a 2,000 square foot home with what we're proposing right now would be $6.68 a month. And your medium or average home residential lot would be $10.02 per month. So just to give you an idea there. So it's based on, it's $1.67 per 500 square feet of impervious area. A couple things that have come up since last reading. First is I got a call from a representative from the airport yesterday. You'll see in the ordinance we're exempting runways and tarmacs. And as what I was educated on is that tarmac is not necessarily an official airport word. So working with them, and I plan on third reading bringing back a definition of what the airport runways and tarmacs are. And so I'll bring that at third reading. And then also we heard that there may be some wants to exempt wheelchair ramps for residential properties, people that have to put in the wheelchair accessible ramps. And so we met today and had a discussion internally with staff, and we think the best way to handle that is in the credit manual through the credit policy. And that credit
policy is still being worked on, is because we got to get done with the ordinance, right? But our plan is to bring that credit policy to you as far as the type and amounts of credits at the December 17th meeting. We'll have that prepared for you. And we'll include a recommendation for those wheelchair ramps. With that, I'll take any questions if you have them. Jen Wade, who's been part of the team, as you know, is here for the finance side of things. And again, Aaron and Elizabeth are here also.
Thank you, Director Webb. Councilor Newman, then Councilor Richardson, please.
If this is in the packet, I might have overmissed it. What are we going to do for low-income housing? Yeah, Mayor, Council, we talked a little bit about that today, and it's kind of in the finance and city manager realm. Do you want to speak to that?
I'd be happy to, although I want to clarify the question if I could, Mayor. Councilor Newman, you were asking about low-income housing and how utility fees contribute or don't contribute to that. Okay, so I'm going to answer the question that I think we thought you asked, and then I'll answer that question, because I did field a question from Councilor Richardson earlier today about our low-income utility bill assistance program. We talked about, as Director Webb indicated, whether it would make more sense to provide credits off of the stormwater bill through the credit manual or through our low-income utility bill assistance program. We've determined the credit manual is the way to go with that. But as part of discussing our low-income assistance program that provides relief off of the overall city utility bill, we will be bringing you a revision to that program to update it in tandem with the credit manual for stormwater at that December meeting, okay? Because when we looked at it, we realized it's aged, and we can update that at the same time. That program would allow for discounts off of other city utility services that we bill in outside of and not including stormwater, which will be dealt with in the credit manual. To your question, Councilor Newman, more directly though, I think you're asking about affordable housing and whether the city could waive some sort of development fee like for stormwater, when a housing developer is developing housing. Do I understand that right? Okay. So I did mention to you all last week in that regard that in terms of working with developers and builders on the upfront to help lower the cost of arterial infrastructure, we are talking in my office and with the various departments that are tied to this, Public Works and Community and Economic Development, about how we might create some sort of cost-sharing program or a forgiveness of development fees on the front end. And then hopefully, right, if the city were to follow through with that, that could translate into helping to minimize the cost of housing, probably marginally, but every little bit helps, right? So I mentioned during the annual report next week that we're working on a program like that. We expect that we'll have something in front of the council after the first of the year for a program where on the front end the city might be able to provide some kind of relief off city development fees. And then the last thing I'll add there is we also have been talking with developers, also mentioned last week that we've been talking with a number of developers this year about whether or not they would be an eligible applicant to work that we could put forward for a grant before the Wyoming Business Council, because they have also indicated a state level potential to help address development costs up front for developers that could translate into helping to lower housing costs overall. Was that way more than you really needed to? Yeah, okay.
Can I ask you one clarifying question real fast, Councilor? Are you, when you ask about affordable housing, are you talking about specifically like federal government definition of affordable housing?
Because we don't have a definition, right?
Well, I mean, I ask you specifically because the federal government does have a designation for what that is, and I just think that that is an entirely separate category for this conversation, because your rent is not set by the price of the actual cost of running the business, right? It's set, or the sort of housing, it's set and said by 30% of your income. So no matter what inputs come in, the output is the same. And so that's why I want to maybe drill down on your question a little bit more, just so I kind of understand where you're at on it. Thanks.
Both. Yeah. So I was kind of looking at, and this is just my mind, the rental side of it as well, because when we did the rental ordinance, rent went up like $300, and that was only $20. Now we're going to add this. I just wonder, like, for like the low income housing, how that was going to affect. But city manager answered that fine for me. I do have a follow-up.
Yeah, have at it.
And my follow-up, city manager, I've already asked you this question, but it's going to help when I go vote. Do you think the city uses their money wisely, and without this fund, do you think we can do these capital projects without some sort of tax?
Mayor and council, Mayor through you, Councilor Newman, I will tell you the city has struggled, and I want to be clear that it's not just this city, right? There are challenges unique to Laramie. This is not one of them. Storm drainage and how to fund this has been an issue for a host of communities, and really among Wyoming's top, population cities and first-class cities, which are oftentimes thought to have deeper pockets and more revenue than smaller communities, although I disagree with that premise. But the reason that we are here tonight and able to be talking about a storm drainage utility and assessing a fee here is because the city's worked with the state legislature over the last probably 8 to 9 years, because this is such a pervasive issue statewide, to create and allow for a storm drainage utility. So directly to your answer about this community, no, Laramie, I do think that our use of resources is very sufficient. Keep in mind, we're looking tonight on this issue at a $100+ million need for investment into stormwater, and that is added to a $100+ million needed investment as well into the street system. Just to give you some base, and we've talked about that many times in recent years as well. If you look at the city's general fund entire allocation in a year, it's about $30 million for all city services, and our investment into the street system is, if we're looking at existing pavement and keeping it maintained, maybe $3 to $6 million a year. And then we've also been trying to spend money adding new pavement in West Laramie and new storm drainage. If you have a $100 million liability in the paved system, right, for maintenance need, you can see that you're not going to get there very quickly with a $3 to $5 or even $7 million a year investment. What we know from our pavement condition indexing that we do on a every couple year basis is the condition of our paved surfaces is deteriorating, which means we are not making sufficient investment using all that is available to us to keep the street systems up. So by creating a revenue stream where we can deal with stormwater, this is the only way to do it, and it will have a byproduct of freeing up resources where we can start to address some deferred maintenance for streets as well. But trying to use the limited revenue we have to do both of those things, stormwater and street, there's just absolutely no way.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilor, any further questions you have on this?
All right.
Great. Councilor Richardson, please.
I have the same question as Councilor Newman, so I took my hand down.
Oh, great. Okay. Councilor Pierce, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Since the state has allowed this utility to come forward, what other communities have moved in this direction so far? And are we anticipating other communities around the state to follow? Do we have any of that data
Director
or
Webb.
information?
Yeah, Mayor, through you, some of the communities that we talked to through the process was Cody, Sheridan, Green River, oh gosh, there was more. Casper, Cheyenne is in the process. Evanston. Yeah, Evanston was a big one. So we talked with multiple communities on how they got there, what they did, and how it's going for them. I know Cheyenne, I don't know if they've completely passed it yet, but I know they're in the process of working on it too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor. Other questions? Councilor Gabriel, please.
Senator Brooks, you're up here now. It's defined clearly in our packet here about the 500 feet of impervious area billing unit. Could you, for the public, just define impervious, please?
Yeah, Mayor, through you, there should be a definition on impervious.
It's right here, but I thought.
That's
for the
fine.
public.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that the impervious is the water doesn't go down into the ground, it runs off into the street or into the storm drain system, is simply how to look at it. So yeah, impervious area is, it doesn't hold the water, it sheds the water.
Thank you, Counselor. Other questions? Counselor Richardson, please.
Thank you. That reminded me, I did have a few folks ask me about some things that could potentially be a little bit in between or not certain. And so, for example, laying down brick pavers that have like not a solid brick, but have like circles inside them. They're kind of this weird in between. How would we look at those sorts of not necessarily totally impervious, but that sort of thing? Are those going to be handled on a individual basis, or can we spell some of these things out a little bit further?
Mayor, I'm gonna defer to Aaron Murray with WSP, but I'm pretty sure is considered an impervious area. Aaron?
Thank you for being here, Aaron.
Yes, hello, Mayor, Council. Things like that would generally be considered impervious, but there are specific products that are designed to be pervious. There are permeable pavers, and I think those are things that on a case-by-case basis, the city could work with the owner and say, hey, look, I've got this driveway you're counting at as impervious. I've used these pavers that are a certain percentage open and allow drainage, and can you subtract that from my bill? There's anticipated to be some kind of a give and take process available to people to challenge things on their bill if they don't think it's right.
I have a follow-up to that.
Please, Counselor.
Are you all available as a resource for those times if our staff isn't completely certain of what that might look like?
Well, I don't want to speak for the city. We are available, and we have talked about providing those kind of added customer services to the city.
Thank you.
All right. Counselor Doherty? Counselor Doherty, go ahead.
I see the street problem and the storm drainage problem as being so intertwined. Like when I look at Garfield Street behind the grocery store there, I mean, it's got so many cracks and things, and I know a lot of it, ice sits there for a long time in the winter, so I really have this dream that we can get the water out of the streets before it freezes up again and save a lot of streets and people's, make it safer for people. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions, council members? Counselor Richardson, is your hand just remaining, or do you have a question? Okay, no problem. All right, other questions, council? All right, we'll turn this to the public. Is there any member of the public wishing to speak to this item? You can come forward in the room or raise your hand on the Zoom call. And I will just remind the council of Mr. Glass's comments earlier. Okay. Seeing no additional comments, back to the council before the vote on second reading. Councilor Newman, please.
Like normal, I'm going to say why I will not support this. Because I'm going to sit down with Director Webb and hash some stuff out. The ADA was part of it, so I'm glad that's already going into it, and the credits was the other part. So there's a good chance I will be supporting this on third reading.
Thank you, Councilor Newman. Anyone else? Comments? As you all think through, go ahead, Councilor Richardson.
Sorry, that's for real, my hand's up this time. Yeah, I just want to note that I appreciate Mr. Glass's comments, and I think that our approach of looking at income level rather than square footage is maybe a little more hopefully kind of precise and targeted, and so I like the idea of utilizing income level rather than square footage.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? As we have conversations, as you all have conversations about what those exceptions may be, I would just maybe keep in mind that folks who are low income have 1,000 things that they have to apply for exceptions for. So just maybe keep in mind the time tax that may be handed down with that, what would effectively be a few dollars savings. So keep that in mind as you're working through it. But otherwise, we can go to the vote. City Clerk.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Nope.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway, absent. Somerville.
No.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 6 yeses, 2 noes, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item is past second reading. We'll move on to item 16. Councilor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the lease agreement between the City of Laramie and the Laramie Chamber Business Alliance for Economic Development Business Accelerator.
Second.
Mayor,
Please.
if we could have an amendment, a small amendment, just to have and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
And authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, City Clerk. City Manager.
Thank you, Council. So this is a lease agreement for a property owned by the city located at 2215 Cumulus Drive, which is really the corner of 22nd and Cumulus in Sierra Sky Technology Park. This building located there was the anchor building and first building in Sierra Sky Tech Park, which the city built and ultimately has been leasing for many years to UL LLC, which is now terminating that lease. The reason, and that was a business-committed business expansion project. UL is in both this building and the building next door at 2320. They are not ceasing any operations in Laramie, but through the pandemic learned that their workers, can be mobile, and so have determined with so many workers working remotely, they no longer need both buildings. So they have terminated this lease. We've been working with LCBA and actually bringing to fruition a concept that has been in place for many years to convert this space, if it were to become vacant, to a business accelerator location for the city. This idea has been floated around for a long time. I'll remind the council that this is actually a goal that was formalized and adopted in the Thrive Economic Development Plan adopted in 2020. Thrive Strategy 1 noted that the city and LCBA should collaborate to increase collaboration that would support business retention, attraction, and recruitment. Specifically in action step 6 under strategy 1, there was a recommendation to develop physical space to support companies at different levels and scales of development, and specifically technology companies. Also, strategy 5 indicated the city and LCBA needed to pilot new and unique sources of assistance for entrepreneurs, and also identify additional funding sources to support entrepreneurs. So leasing this building and converting a empty building into this economic development business accelerator satisfies those objectives adopted by the city and by LCBA. As you know, Sierra Sky Technology Park is Laramie's designated technology office business location. This use of the building would align with our development strategies and also align with the zoning that the city has in place in this part of town. A little bit more information, and then I'll turn it over to President CEO Brad Enzi. Laramie Chamber Business Alliance, under this lease, would lease the property and operate it as a business accelerator to increase jobs in the technology sector, specifically focused on technology. As part of the lease, LCBA is assuming deferred maintenance at the property, a little bit that needs to be done before they can sublease it to a business to use as an accelerator. lender. They would have possession of the building as soon as December 1st of 2024, and the lease rate that we've negotiated is $54,000 per year for an initial 5-year term with options when mutually agreed to by the parties to extend that lease for 3-year subsequent terms after the initial 5-year would expire. The $54,000 per year does represent a roughly 47% discount off the current market rates for office space of this type in Laramie. And so I would characterize the lease as it stands now as sort of a shared agreement between the city and LCBA to pay half each for helping to create space where we can grow and accelerate businesses that are needing to really take it to the next level of development. The first accelerator tenant is in line, and that is Saffron Passenger Innovations, currently in the business incubator at the University of Wyoming campus. They're a division of one of the largest global aerospace companies that is currently based out of France, and they need some additional space to continue growing and creating more jobs prior to what they believe will be coming back to the city and LCBA in some future year for a business-ready community grant to build them an official building of their own here in Laramie. LCBA's conducted the analysis of economic impact of SPI or Saffron in Laramie, including looking at job types, salary, job projections, and actual jobs, and seen that the incentives offered in the lease would be justified to help them take the growth of their company to the next level. I will let President Enzi of LCBA come up and talk to you more about Saffron. There is a lot more detail in your packet, but I will not go into it because I'm sure you've all had a chance to read that.
Thank you, City Manager. Welcome, Mr. Enzi.
Mr. Mayor, thanks, City Manager. This is a representation really of what we've tried to do in cooperation through the Thrive plan. And we identified that we have workforce that's available in Laramie to grow a tech sector and create lateral and vertical mobility in a workforce. Through an alumni of the University of Wyoming, Matt Hill, who's the CEO of Saffron Passenger Innovations, wanted to take advantage of kind of the computing and the workforce development that had been done at the university. And so starting last 2023, kind of mid-year, we started working with the company on how would you relocate to Laramie, what would that look like to create a center of excellence, which would add to Brea, California, and then in Germany they have another group that does this. And when we say passenger innovations, when you get on the airplane and you sit down and you're like, man, this flight's going to be horrible, and then you look up and you see a nice big screen with tons of movies, that's what they do. And this is the software development arm of the company. Decided they wanted to headquarter in Laramie with one of their development groups. So they started really kind of first part of this year. We leased space in Impact 307 for them. Currently, we pay all the lease costs. That was part of the attraction. We'll continue to do that in the accelerator. LCBA will bear the costs as Saffron grows. I'm happy to report they took off and outgrew the first room that we leased for them in Impact 307, outgrew the second room that we leased for them in Impact 307, and are ready to go to a bigger space. And we've been in the process of developing a grant that we'll be coming back for here in the next few months to start the process of what does a 35,000 square foot facility with 250 employees that are all well above median wage and very high up. It'll be part of the grant package. What does it look like for us to have that sort of facility in Laramie located on Cirrus Sky as an extension? That will also bring other opportunities in terms of kind of support companies for the organization, the Panasonic, Samsungs that provide the hardware that work with that, and as well as we know, as identified in Thrive, but is becoming kind of an an exacerbated situation in Laramie, we have companies that are growing that then need the next space to continue to grow, kind of that gap space after you're out of an incubator and you need to be an accelerator, so you've got a product done. So the vision is that this becomes the space where we continue to grow that economy and the tech workforce and keep those jobs in Laramie where people can grow not only their company, but within, be able to move between companies as their capacity and roles exceed. We're very excited to have partnered with Safran. They're at just over 30, in the 30 job range already, and this will allow them to grow until we can get them another facility built through their workforce. So with that, I would stand for any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions? Mr. Renzi, do you have an estimate on time frame for when they will be onto a space they own? Moving, I guess, that's maybe the wrong way to ask it, but into not the accelerator and into their own space.
First part of 26 is what we're shooting for.
Okay, cool. Please.
So Brad, just to be clear, this is going to be a facility to house how many employees initially?
So initially, the 30 will move over. It'll allow them to grow up to kind of their first quarter of 26 projections, which is the low 80s.
And then after that?
Into the building that will work with the business, that we've been working with the business council of what does it look like, and lessons learned through the last grant that we did. How do we have it better designed and better dialed in before we bring it to council?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gabriel. Other questions, council members? All right. Thank you, President Enzi. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council.
All right. Any general questions, council, before we go to the public? All right. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this item can come forward in the room or raise your hand on the Zoom call. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Councilors, anything before the vote? I would just add, I think, for maybe for the business community, there is a pervasive misconception, I believe, that the city is somehow not supportive of business development. And so I just want to note this in that conversation as another thing that we are doing to make sure that the city of Laramie is open for business. I think this is adds to a long list of things that this council and councils before it have done to make sure that it is, that a business that wants to grow here is well supported by their community. So, and Mr. Enzi, I know you know that, so I'm just saying it not at you, but to the general record. All right, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Richardson.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Shumway absent. Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We will move on to public comments on non-agenda items. If there's any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on an item that was not on our agenda this evening, go ahead and come forward in the room or raise your hand if you are on the Zoom call. Seeing none, I will close public comment. Council members, any future work session topics that you want to stick the next council with? Councilor Newman.
That's funny. Not a future one, but I need clarification, and it's better that we do a public hearing. The agenda for Thursday says it's here, but I thought it was at the other building.
Operation.
Yeah.
That was my mistake, Your Honor and council. I will get that corrected tonight on the published agenda. The notice, the public notice did have the MOC.
Okay.
And so I will just make sure that that's all correct. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Councilor,
and I just noticed it, so.
Yeah, great. All right. Anything else? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Councilor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we adjourn to executive session regarding personnel, Wyoming Statute 16-4-405, lowercase a, Roman numeral 10.
Second.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, counselors, we are adjourned to executive session. Let's take a nice 5-minute break, 7-minute break, something like that. See you back here.